that it's only the thrill of boy meeting girl. Opposites attract. It's physical, only logical. You must try to ignore that and need more than that. Oh, what's love got to do with it? What's love but a second-hand emotion? What's love got to do with it? Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? It may seem to you.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Agree or Disagree, the podcast. Some were dancing during that song. I could see via Google Hangout. This is Kevin Olenek. You can find this on me on Facebook. You can add me as a friend, Kevin Olenek. You can like Agree or Disagree the podcast on Facebook as well. Follow me on Twitter at KEVOLE, SoundCloud.com, KEVOLE. You can find the podcast on Spreaker, KEVOLE, Podbean, at A or D the podcast, and as well as YouTube, Kevin Olenek. Soon, very soon, we'll be doing the Instagram TV thing as well. So, our topic today is about love. Is there someone out there that you love? Probably the answer to that is obviously yes. Either it's a friend, family, spouse, some sort of significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, or maybe both. An animal, a dog, a cat, or some other type of animal, bird or other exotic. But what about yourself? Do you love yourself? For some, that question is quite easy. You actually are quite in love with yourself. You love yourself. You admire yourself. You can see that in other people when they exude self-confidence the moment you see them. They own the room, as they say. They grab your attention. Your eyes are fixated on them because of how they present themselves. For others, it's a real struggle. For many personal reasons, loving and believing in yourself is a legitimate struggle because of wounded words some have said to you, whether that be a parent, a mentor, a teacher, a friend, or an enemy, have taken it to heart and have resonated with you longer than perhaps you have ever wanted it to. Self-love is defined as regard for one's own well-being and happiness. Many see it as a key driver of success. It breeds confidence. It helps you grow. Our guest today on Agree or Disagree the podcast has been on before. She has, I will clarify how, she has written a part of a book, or in a book called What Does Self-Love Got to Do with It? Hence the Tina Turner beginning. Adele Desjardins is strongly connected to her roots. She is a proud coal miner's daughter, raised by her dad at 10 months of age. With the support of her aunts, uncles, grandparents, and her community, she has faced many adversities in her life. Some people look for escape in self-destruction or addiction, but not Adele. She has taken the lessons learned through pivotal points in her life to become the amazing person she is today. Hello, Adele. How are you?
I am great, Kevin. Thanks for the amazing introduction.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for dancing through Tina Turner.
How can you not?
How can you not? So we did a little poll on Facebook and on my Facebook and on Twitter. And apparently it looks like the world has been solved because when I said, I asked on a scale of 1 to 10, how you love yourself. And the majority of people I split it up from 1 to 10 or 1 to 5 to 6 to 10. And the majority of people are at 6 to 10. So, and then someone else pointed out that it could depend. So I'm going to put you on the spot. On a scale of 1 to 10, Adele, are you in the 1 to 5 or the 6 to 10?
I'm in 6 to 10 now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. You said now. What is it about now that changed that for you?
Probably the biggest is learning even what that meant. Because I think it was easy to say that, yeah, I love myself. But could I truly look in a mirror and be happy happy with what I see? Can I show up in relationships with people and my partner and with my children and say I'm happy with how I show up in that relationship? So there's kind of varying things to me about self-love that I wouldn't agree with a few years ago that I was actually in that same space.
What are some examples to that?
Well, the first and biggest, and that I talk so much about in my chapter in my book, and is since my divorce. And who I was in my marriage wasn't somebody that loved herself at all. Even though I was happy and I presented like I had everything going, I wanted to change and fix other people, not recognizing that I actually needed to change and fix myself. Now, I don't want to change and fix anything. I love self-growth. I love learning and evolving, but I don't want to actually change who I am.
So you're satisfied with who you are now?
Yes.
I feel like I'm putting you on the spot in that sense. Are you satisfied with who you are?
It is a question, right? And I think you nailed it when you did the intro. And I saw somebody post, even just on Facebook, when we talk about who is the most important person that you love, and we typically talk about all these external people or things or pets, but the last person we think about is ourselves. And yet that is the core person that we need to love first, because we can't give from an empty cup. I need to be full inside of me and know that I am loved by me before I can even begin to love other people.
Yeah, it's really important to establish that root. And the title, I mean, you can talk a little bit about how that title came, but I think it's really interesting if you actually listen to the lyrics of Tina Turner, which of course we all did, but she talked about that in a very physical sense. And we don't talk about loving ourselves in a physical sense. And it's not, I want to be careful how we're saying it. It's not like we have to, I don't think it's wrong to self-hug or self-pat on the back or self-high-five. And I think that it's important to do that. We don't talk a lot about that. We talk about giving others a hug. We talk about giving others a compliment. We talk about that concept but we don't talk about how we talk to ourselves. And our self-talk, it's when you hear, in that introduction, I was thinking about some of the things that you may have had in your life said that positive or negatively, or I have had in my life said positive or negatively. Those resonate with us for a long time. And they, like a plant, they sit and they root in our garden, in our soul. And that's what grows out of us.
Yeah. So many have such negative self-talk, and we recognize that if I were to speak to another human being the way I do myself sometimes, I wouldn't have friends. I'm grateful that I don't consider myself fat, or as girls looking back, I mean, in high school I was like, oh, my thighs, they're so fat, they rub together. And now I'm like, I could only wish I was that size again. And it's not just that, like you said, physical appearance, but talking that negatively. I'm not good enough. I'm stupid. Why did I make those bad decisions? Because I'm human. I'm allowed to do those things because I'm human. But can I learn from it to maybe not make the mistake again? In that resiliency, that to me is self-love, and not beating myself and being so hard on myself because I made a bad decision, or I was in a bad relationship, chose the wrong job, moved 5 times and cost me over $50,000. It's okay. I'm human.
My recent move doesn't feel as bad as that.
It was the most expensive summer holiday I'd ever had, Kevin.
Oh. I feel you. I totally feel you at this point in time. That's how I can say that. Those who know. Yeah, it's interesting too because, especially, and I had this conversation with a few people about this. You're a creator because you're an author. You're an author.
I'm an author. I'm still wrapping my head around that, so thank you.
We're going to dig into that a little bit more as we get into this, but I'm a creator. There's the creative people out there, in terms of their self-love and their self-worth, and I can speak for me, a lot of it has to do with the fact of the attention that we are seeking or receiving in some senses. Because, if someone says, you know what, I really love your work, that resonates and that helps you love yourself. If someone gives you a negative, gives me a negative comment, that doesn't sit as well with me and I don't like myself as much. How do you balance that out with getting to the center of, not that that doesn't matter, because in a lot of ways we're in a results-oriented world, but not being in a results-oriented world and still loving yourself as you?
I think for me, the bonus I have is learning that, okay, if a negative comment comes along, because I can't please everybody, I know I can't, that how do I take that, whether it's constructive criticism or whatever it shall be, and look at that and really evaluate, is there something that I could have said differently, something I could have done differently, or maybe there isn't, and then I can just let it go. Because it doesn't mean that I have to necessarily change what I said or did to please that person. Because if it doesn't align with my beliefs, etc., then I'm not obviously going to change it. But yeah, so I just question sort of those things because there is going to be the negative Nellies out there and people that have a different opinion. And that's what makes the world go round. And I challenge them to do that, actually, because that brings it to my attention. Maybe it's a belief system I can even change. And so it helps me grow and evolve again.
Like you can change for yourself, or you can change in other people, or
just for myself.
Right.
I really learned it's not about changing anybody else. And that was something I defined previously, in that to love someone else is to love them for who they are and not for who I think they should be or how I can change them, which was maybe sort of ideas I had in relationships before. I'll call them maybe immature relationships because I didn't know any different. But I have to just love that person for exactly who they show up as. And I then in turn need to love myself exactly how I show up. But I have the capacity to make a choice that sometimes I can be privy to new information that questions my belief that I may have had before and say, am I willing to change it now? Is there evidence for or against that belief? But only I can change that. It's not that someone else is trying to change me. It's me questioning and asking, like, yeah, maybe I do like that direction, or I do want to change how I show up in this relationship. I'm willing to do that. But I don't expect them to change or do other things differently.
Right. It's about you. It's all about you. It's all about me. In terms of, and I that may came out flippant, but it actually is really important. It is about you, and we're so Canadian, and when we're like, it has to be about the other person, right? It's we got to put others first, especially those that have been in a more of a religious or spiritual context where the teaching is you do put others first times, and balance that out with forgetting about yourself. And so I don't mean to be flippant about that, because it is actually about us, and it's not a bad thing. There is times it can be a bad thing, for sure. Of course, everything can be unhealthy, but there are times it's okay. It's about yourself. Now,
that's just one of the quotes, even in the book from one of the authors. Self-love is not selfish.
Say that again, please.
Self-love is not selfish. And And, I can look at certain relationships and I would have said, they're so selfish. They only think of themselves. But now that I've learned more self-love, I realize that they were able to speak their needs and put themselves first. But it was never with ill intent to hurt me. It was how I reacted to their need or what they were saying in that time is the difference. And I was reacting in a very selfish way almost, because I wasn't necessarily getting my needs heard or met, but I wasn't speaking them either.
That's important to do.
Yes.
And I would suggest, and I hate to generalize this, and you can certainly comment about this, but I feel like for men, it's tougher. Not tougher. Well, it's different because we're not supposed to have these needs necessarily. The sensitive man is not manly, so we're not supposed to have those kinds of needs. We're supposed to be tough and do this all ourselves, and reaching out for help or asking for things that we need has been perceived as a sign of weakness. And in a sense, there's an admiration for people that, the self-made millionaire, as an example. Oh, wow, we applaud the but, did that self-made millionaire really, did you know anyone that has been successful without someone behind them?
Not personally.
Oh.
I'm sure they do exist. But I know for myself, if I hadn't asked for help, I wouldn't be where I am.
Yeah.
And just so, touching back on how you said, like, men in society, we, sort of raise them to not express their feelings and their needs and stuff. And, recognizing that it's not true. They need to express them and share them just as much as women do. And it is harder for them. For me, I learned that at such a young age that I didn't even allow the men in my life to necessarily share their needs or their feelings, because I had predicted them before they even probably knew how they felt. And as a codependent, that is just how you survive, is knowing how they feel and what it is that they want, and making sure that that is all taken care of. That unfortunately you enable this behavior that I don't think they really have to think a lot of the times.
It's interesting you said predict. Can you elaborate on that?
I know that's a tough, so let's say as a child, I would want to go out and play with friends. And I knew my dad was having a nap in the afternoon. And so then I would go clean the bathroom, maybe organize the cupboards a little bit. And I would just do these little extra things to make sure it was all tidy and everything. So then when he woke up, I would say to him, I'm just wondering if I could go out and play with Wendy. She had asked if I could go play, and I've cleaned the bathroom and I tidied up and I organized the cupboards. Do you think that would be okay? And he would say, yeah, you could go, be home by 5:30. I predicted that he would say yes, because how could he say no? I've done this, and this to keep him happy. And I also then, it wasn't me asking, it was my friend asking if I could go play. It was easier for him to maybe say no to me, but not necessarily to say no to my friend. And I had all these conversations and did all these crazy things, and I was probably 8.
And you,
And I didn't know at the time that I was actually really doing that. I recognized that I was doing the things to make him happy so I could get what the result was I was looking for, was to go play. But it isn't until now, later in life, reading different books and studying and learning about relationships and such, of how toxic that way of thinking and having to kind of almost survive in the environment in which I was being raised. And it just became normal. That was just normal, right? So I didn't think too much about it.
It's like someone else, your life is in someone else's hands.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's times where that might feel good for some, but there's times that that's really a super uncomfortable and awkward feeling.
Yeah, it's interesting that I've never really heard it say that way, and I'll tell you, I got a lump in my gut right now. And that's okay, right? But it's realizing just how out of control I allowed my own life to be. But I didn't like confrontation, and I didn't like arguments, and so you just went along with it. Because if I did sort of cast my opinion or something, it would be judged or criticized. And rather than facing that and dealing with that, it was just easier to conform and just agree and not really have the feelings and opinions of my own.
Where did that really change for you?
That changed January 2014 when I attended a weekend out in Banff. And it was a weekend of self-growth that I invested in myself. I even stayed at the Banff Springs Hotel. Could not afford it, but I found a way to, because I said it's an investment in me. And I had been writing in my journals, and I had wrote the words, is how do I become a stronger me? And I learned that transformation weekend that self-love is important. I am statements are important. That I could sit in a room of over 100 people and not be judged by anyone if I had stood up and just expressed exactly what I did right now, but have nothing but just pure love for who I was and that I was there. And I worked through different strategies. One of them was a visualization exercise. And you visualize your life in a year from now being the way that you ultimately want your life to be. That was life-changing because I had self-love. I loved everything about, like, my closet had just my clothes in it. My bank account had a certain amount of money. What time of the day I got up. And there was nobody around me to change or influence my decisions. They were all my own. They weren't influenced by anybody else. And that felt so freeing.
Yeah, we're part of that same group. I think I came later, but I think, yeah, it was later. I was 215, I think I came. But yeah, I get that. So, I don't know where I want to go here. I think I want to ask this question too, and then we're going to get into the process of writing a book and being an author. You have to understand, folks, Adele is quite excited about the process of being an author. It's quite something for those who have written books. It's hard to write a book, and it's hard to get published, even in self-publish, and it's hard to get that form of validation and or acceptance. Which leads first to the question that I want to ask before that is, in terms of when times you make a mistake or at times when we fail or things don't work out, however that looks, it's a broken relationship, broken job, broken whatever. Can you love yourself and still be mad at yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Because even if you were to say that, like, looking at a relationship, can you still love your partner but be mad at them? Yeah. But for our own self, my daughter actually asked me this question recently. because she was upset with the decision she had made. And she said, "Can I be mad at myself?" And I said, "Yes, but we don't stay there. We recognize, why are we mad or angry? How can we change that emotion, maybe out of mad to sad, and we weaken it and give it less power? And then changing that to, okay, I'm going to let that go. It doesn't define me." And then return back to that place of self-love and growth. And so maybe that answers, but I just say don't stay there. Feel the emotion. Absolutely. Because if we stuff it and don't recognize it, I think that's just like a time bomb waiting to explode.
Yeah. So tell us about the process of writing this book and how you got involved. And
yeah. I have to first credit networking. I have worked hard over the last few years with no intent of finding a publisher. I've known I've wanted to write a book, in that it's been on my vision board for about 3 years, that I was going to make money from writing a book. But it scared me because I was told as a child in school, writing, I sucked. I was not a writer. I had no flow. It didn't make sense. I didn't have body, etc. And I believed that. And in my networking, I saw a post looking for collaborative authors in a book about self-love. And it resonated with me because I love love, and self-love is so important. And so I reached out, made the phone call, and said, yeah, can we set up an interview to see if I fit for this book? And Heather Andrews and I, from Follow It Through Publishing, it connected. We laughed and we cried in our phone conversation and said it would be a perfect fit. And what I learned in that process, I don't have to be a great writer, because there's these amazing people called editors, and I love them.
Yay!
Yes, they have a job for a reason, for people like me who struggle to put things together. And so fortunately for me, the process then became quite easy. I used Google, Talk, Translate, Speak, or whatever. And so I could tell my story because I love to talk. I'm a good storyteller. And it was easy to then just talk to the computer. Google did its work typing it in the screen for me. I could then copy and paste and grammar edit. And with Heather, the whole collaboration was working with her editors, working with her. And I have an amazing neighbor who is fantastic at editing. She read it over. We worked on it together, putting it together. And then, we now have a book with 13 other amazing authors, US and Canada, that have put together their stories in discovering self-love.
Did you have a chance to meet some of the other authors that are involved in this project, or?
So far, I've met one of the other authors, because ironically, in that process, I'm now coaching underneath her. She's in Edmonton.
Okay.
Rosalind Fung. So I haven't actually even met the publisher face to face yet. We are going to meet next week at my book signing. But we have been in Facebook group together, supporting each other. We also developed a What Self-Love Got to Do with It Facebook group, encouraging other human beings that want to be a part of a non-judging, amazing group of humans to join that, and all of us authors are in there, and we get to post and share and just connect. Yeah.
It's interesting, the idea to me of like 13 or 14 different people contributing chapters to a book, and how does that flow, and how do you pick Which chapter is the first one and which chapter is the second one? Do you know what chapter you are? I listened to an interview and you kind of were sure, but you weren't sure. And I don't know if should we spoil that, or do you know? And maybe it's like read the book and you'll find out.
I'm chapter 4.
Okay.
And so I am on to chapter 6, I believe, because I didn't get to read the book before it was published. And I have absolutely loved the way the publisher has put this book together. She is chapter 1, which it's her book. And I was gonna say, I hope you're still there, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm here.
So she really brings together why this book was created, and so far the chapters really flow into one another, yet they're also individual. And there's another kind of amazing piece with this book is at the end of each chapter is 3 mindset tips and 3 lessons learned from the author, and then a page of lines for your own self-reflection. So you can use this really as a tool to work through and write some notes and resonate with you in each chapter.
It's interesting. So you're saying that there's a book signing?
Yeah, there's a few. Mine is next Thursday here in Drumheller.
Okay.
And I know there's going to be one in Edmonton. There's one down in Lethbridge. They had one out in Ontario last week. So it's exciting. I never thought I'd do a book signing. So here's a top secret.
Top secret.
It's not really top secret, but I'm not actually a reader. So to write a book or a chapter in a book, shall I say, and you don't actually read a lot, was a little challenging, which is why I needed editors. I listen to most books on audio. That's a whole different format than actually reading. So this has gotten me into reading.
Okay.
I am loving reading this book.
I actually don't like. Do you feel that that's weird that you wrote and you're not a reader?
In some ways, it felt kind of hypocritical. I won't deny that. But part of it at the same time is saying I don't have to be one to be the other. In that I have a story to share and it's important and I want to change other people's lives. And so why would I selfishly keep that within me because of a belief system that somebody once told me I'm not a writer?
Well, the reason I don't think it's hypocritical because I think like when I read, I visualize, I hear voices, I hear sounds, right? Yeah. So I express that. I try to express that in whatever when I write. So I don't think that doesn't. I don't know if reading makes someone a better writer or not. I guess I can see where it does, but I think if you have that flow within you and you understand, it's like whatever comes out, right? And that's why you're right. That's why we have editors in this world too. But I don't know. I mean, a lot of people do listen to audiobooks. By the way, Emma would be a good audio voice. I'm just pointing that out there. Just saying.
It's also been a dream of mine to be a voice of a book. I absolutely love reading stories to my children. And so reading Little Mermaid is what started it. I was like, I would just love to be the voice of a book. So putting it out there.
I'm also putting it out there. Maybe we could co-do it. Can you imagine? One chapter is you, one chapter is me.
Like I could see you as being Sebastian, the crab, and I'll be Ariel.
I don't even know how I could. I don't think I could do Sebastian the crab right yet. I have to find the voice. Maybe let's find the
French accent. That's all.
Oh, bonjour, Sebastian. Yes, I could do that right now. See,
you got it.
I got it. I'm Sebastian the crab. But people, Do you remember when you were a kid? Did this happen when you were a kid? It happened to me when I was a kid. The teacher in the front would read a book during English. I remember like The Hobbit, and that's how I fell in love with The Hobbit. It wasn't because I read it; it's because someone read it to me. So there's a richness in that, eh?
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, do you have other plans to write? Like, this has helped you a lot in your.
This has been pivotal to launching my relationship coaching career. I love to be a speaker as well, to be, to motivate and to help transform people's lives. And to now have a book with my words out there has been incredible. This book went international bestseller on its day of release, which is fantastic for all of our authors and our publisher. And so there's something in me that there's still a book that needs to be released and not just a chapter in a book. But I'm not sure exactly what that looks like yet.
One of the things that I've been sitting here, and I just kind of thought, I've been thinking about this a little bit, but I've been also, like, it's been percolating maybe, it's just coming out. But one of the things that I think is lacking a little bit is solid dating advice. And what I mean by that is not like Dear Abby, but like sincerely, like, what do I do in this situation?
Well, what I love is that we sat down here and beside me, Kevin, is basic principles of fair fighting.
Oh, see?
And then my next sheet, I think that's stapled to it, is communication guidelines while problem solving. Wouldn't these things be helpful if we had learned them back in school?
There's a lot of things that, there are a lot of things that if we went back, learned in school.
Yes, I agree. And, I hadn't really dated. I was in my first relationship at the age of 14 till I was 18. And then I met my husband to be at 18, and I was with him till I was 35. And so I didn't know what dating, if you want to call grade 8 dating, which was really good that I did, even though I wasn't allowed to, because I have a daughter in grade 8, and I know exactly what she's been up to.
Oh, the junior high dance, the holding of the hands, all that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But I did date after my divorce, and been on Plenty of Fish and been on Tinder and scrapped it all. And, I learned so much about myself and about other people and relationships. And I think you're right. There's just some more do's and don'ts that might help a person.
Yeah, because I'm actually seriously thinking, I'm putting this out there, I'm seriously thinking of doing a Facebook Live where we give actual answer dating relationship questions.
Love it.
We'll get a couple of you. So if you're in, we'll get you and a couple of other people, get a male perspective, because I'm no dating coach. I'm not dating anyone. I can't give anybody any advice on dating. It would be terrible. Other than run for your life. It's not gonna,
I know, I've got one that I want to but I will save it, because if we do that, I really think it will help so many people, and not even in the fact of obtaining the relationship. First, it comes back to self-love. But again, I'll save that tip if we end up doing a relationship talk.
Before we get to the promotional stuff, is there anything else that we need to chat about?
I think, Kevin, I think we touched on so many amazing things. And if I can just say that, life is about choices. We choose our mindset, we choose our beliefs, and how we interact with others. We have the power in our choice.
Yes.
And that may be in my book.
That might be in your book. Is there? Oh, we could ask this after. Is there? We'll talk about that after, about giveaways and stuff or whatever. But how do they find the book?
How do you find the book? It is available on Amazon. What Self-Love Got to Do with It. They can also contact me directly, either through my website, which is adeledesjardins.com, or my Facebook page, Adele Desjardins Lapine, and I would be more than happy to ship them out a book, and it could then be signed if they want to get it from me. Or, of course, my book signing next Thursday, the 12th, here in Drumheller.
Will there be other book signings that we can find you at as well, or?
I do believe I have a book signing at Transformation Weekend, January 2019 in Calgary.
Oh.
Yes.
Ooh.
And before then, I'm looking at heading out to Saskatchewan, go do a book signing probably in August in Saskatoon. So any listeners are out there.
There's a club in Victoria too.
There is, and actually I would love to come out to Victoria. It's been a while since I've been out there, and that would be an honor. So
yeah, I can't speak for them, but I know the person in charge of that. But maybe, isn't she a friend of yours?
I'm going to say she comes from Drumheller.
She comes from Drumheller. Planting ideas. Cool. Well, you can follow me on Facebook, Kevin Olenek, SoundCloud, KEVOLE, Spreaker.com, KEVOLE, the YouTube, Kevin Olenek, also on Instagram, KEVOLE, Twitter, KEVOLE, Like, Agree, or Disagree, the podcast on Facebook. Thanks for joining me, Adele.
Thanks so much for having me again, Kevin.
And we will all talk to you very soon. We're going to leave you with something that you've just heard already, but we're going to play it again just as a reminder. Bye for now.
You must understand the touch of your hand makes my pulse react. That it's only the thrill of boy meeting girl opposites attract. It's physical, only logical. You must try to ignore that it means more than that. Oh, what's love got to do with it? What's love but a second-hand emotion? What's love got to do with it? Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? It may seem to you that I'm acting confused.